Chapter 854. Will she be really of any use? Inside the Black Tower. Finally, you now belong to me. Avril caressed the young beauty's face lovingly. I've waited for this day for so long now, you're finally mine. When Avril had given Morax the mirror, her wish was to make Razel hers. However, she didn't plan to have a master and servant relationship. What the beautiful elf wanted was Razel's everything, including her soul. Morax agreed to her request and crafted her a blue crystal blade that had the power to enslave the souls of others. As long as that person's heart was pierced by the blade, they would lose control over their entire body, and their soul would be sealed by the power of the blue crystal blade. I'm very sorry, Razel, Avril said lovingly. I didn't want to hurt you, but this was the only way we could be together. Don't worry, I promise that I will not mistreat you. I will not allow you to get hurt by anyone. You will be safe with me. When Razel first appeared in the Deadlands, Avril didn't pay her much attention. However, the beautiful elf started to take notice of her when Zenobia had died. The young beauty had done her best to protect the Glory Shelter all by herself, and Avril watched her the entire time. Her bravery, her youth, and beauty started to pluck the heartstrings of Avril's heart, which left her obsessed with the red-haired young lady. At first, Avril decided to get close to her by asking her to become her right-hand woman. The beautiful elf even offered to take care of the entire Glory Shelter as long as she could have Razel by her side. Unfortunately, the young beauty politely rejected her offer with the excuse that Zenobia wouldn't want that to happen. On the surface, Avril accepted her reason, but deep inside, she lamented that a dead human had prevented her from taking what she wanted. Every week that passed, Avril's obsession with Razel grew. In the end, she herself found this to be abnormal because no matter how much she cared for the young beauty, she still felt that her obsession was getting out of hand. Avril had a unique ability of being able to sense the strong power hidden in the bloodline of people. This was how she had recruited powerful warriors to serve under her when she was still in her homeworld. When she became trapped in the Deadlands, she thought that this ability of hers was gone because she felt nothing towards the people that had found themselves stranded in this strange world like her. Aside from being able to sense the power of hidden bloodlines on other people, Avril had another ability. That ability was to temporarily copy that person's power for a short period of time by drinking their blood. Naturally, she didn't plan to drink Razel's blood because she adored her. She only wanted to have the young beauty by her side and possess everything she had, including her soul. Razel, my lovely Razel, I love you, Avril said, as looked into the young beauty's dimmed eyes, which contained no consciousness of their own. Tell me, you love me too, right? Just nod your head, my love. That is enough. The blue blade glowed briefly in Avril's hand, as if issuing an absolute command to the lady she wanted to have for herself. Razel nodded her head, which made Avril very happy. I knew it, Avril smiled happily. I knew that you loved me too. Overcome with happiness, the beautiful elf kissed Razel's forehead and cheeks. Avril's hand then moved downwards, stopping on Razel's chest as she held it fondly. My love, today I will take your everything, Avril said as her hand continued to move downwards and stopped at Razel's abdomen, which she lovingly rubbed before looking at the young beauty's eyes that were devoid of consciousness, including your most precious possession. She then grabbed Razel's hand and led her towards the bed. Avril took off her clothing first, then Razel's before making her sit on top of the bed alongside her. I order you to love me, Avril said, and the blue crystal blade that floated in the air once again glowed briefly. Make love to me, my beloved. You don't have to worry about the meaningless battle that is going on outside. Just focus on me and me alone. Razel moved and pulled Avril's naked body close to her. Avril didn't resist and even enjoyed the sensation of Razel's body pressing against hers. A moment later, the young beauty's hands wrapped around the elf's body, holding her in place. Razel then lowered her head to kiss Avril's neck, repeatedly, which made the beautiful elf sigh in pleasure. Suddenly, Avril felt a piercing pain in her neck, which put her in a daze. "Darling, is this how your race shows their love to another?" Avril asked, and glanced at the glowing crystal blade in the air. Since the power of the blade was still in effect, she thought that this was part of Raisel's culture when professing their love to their beloved. Soon, the pain disappeared, and a blissful expression spread across Avril's face. "Why, yes, this is it. This is what I want," Avril said as she held Raisel's head against her neck. "Give me more, make me feel good." A minute later, Avril started to feel lightheaded. It was at this moment when she realized that something was amiss. Stop," Avril ordered. "Raisel, stop now." The young beauty ignored her and kept on drinking the beautiful elf's blood. "I said stop." Avril mustered her strength to push Raisel away, but the latter had locked her in a firm hold, preventing the beautiful elf from breaking free. "I order you to stop, stop, stop it." The blue crystal blade glowed brightly, as if reinforcing Avril's command, but the young beauty ignored her and kept on sucking the life force from her body. Soon, Avril felt faint as her consciousness started to blur. Stop, PL, please stop," Avril begged as she found herself about to lose consciousness. This was the moment that the beautiful elf realized that the blue crystal blade wasn't affecting the young beauty, whose soul she had thought to have been under her complete control. Her hands were still trying to push Raisel away, but they no longer contained any strength in them. Soon, her hands fell to the side as her body slackened completely. Only the sound of someone sucking blood echoed inside the closed room. 10 minutes later, the young beauty finally pulled her fangs out of the neck of the no longer beautiful elf, who had almost turned into a dry husk. Raisel pushed the body aside indifferently, making it fall to the ground. "You dare covet my daughter in this manner?" Raisel's words were deep and menacing, unforgivable. The young beauty then picked up her clothes from the floor and put them on as fast as she could. William, who was possessing Raisel's body, was doing his best to calm the killing intent that was rising from his very soul. As someone that had been enslaved by the collar of wisteria in the past, the half-elf had gained full immunity to all kinds of enslavement spells, including those that target the soul. Currently, Raisel's body was still under the enslavement spell, but William's soul had overpowered the blue crystal blade's influence and had taken full control of Raisel's body. William then grabbed the hateful sword that was floating in the air and smashed it with his bare hands. The blade shattered into countless pieces before turning into particles of light. The spell that bound Raisel's body had finally been broken, making the half-elf's anger subside by a small margin. After making sure that the enslavement spell had been broken, William gave the lifeless elf on the ground a sidelong glance before leaving the room. He still had things to do and couldn't be bothered in dealing with the elf that had tried to make someone very precious to him, her personal plaything. "Raisel, I'm inside," William said as she walked the abandoned hallways of the Black Tower. "Once I am in the throne room, we will proceed with the second phase of our plan. Hurry up and go to your mother. I'm sure that she's gone ballistic by now." Raisel, who was possessing William's body, jumped from roof to roof as she headed in the direction of the Black Tower. The moment her original body was captured, she left the glory shelter in order to meet with Lilith. "Pa, be careful," Raisel replied as the blue gem on William's chest glowed. "I am on my way." "Don't worry about me," William's voice reached her ears. "I'm more worried about your mother. She's probably going all out right now in order to get your body back." A brief silence passed between the two before Raisel asked William a question. "Is Avril dead?" Raisel asked. "No," William replied. "I was very tempted to kill her, but since you told me to spare her, I just transformed her into a vampire and made her my eternal slave. She won't be moving anytime soon because I ordered her to not move a muscle until I tell her to do so." "Thank you, Pa. Will she really be of any use?" Raisel smiled as she neared the battlefield. "In time, let's deal with the Black Tower first. Raizel's eyes locked on the Amazon princess, whose blood and tears had merged with Gleipnir, allowing her to wield the artifact's power to its fullest. Her heart ached knowing that her mother was going all out for her sake, but this was something that needed to happen. Only by combining their full powers would they have a chance to stand against the Dread Lord, whose divinity was returning and would allow him to return to the realm of the gods. Of a rooftop, and allowed Lilith to stand on her 2 feet. It's really me. I switched bodies with Papa. The one that Avril captured was him. Give me proof. If you don't give me any, I'll go to the Black Tower with or without you. Proof, that's easy. William lowered her head and whispered something in Lilith's ears. A moment later, the Amazon princess' eyes widened in shock as she looked at the half-elf in disbelief. She had spent a lot of time with Raizel, and she had told the young beauty many of her secrets. Right now, the red-headed teenager in front of her just told her some of the things that she asked Raizel to keep secret. It's really you, Raizel. Yes, it's me, Mamo. Lilith cried as she hugged her daughter, who was currently inside William's body. She had been so desperate trying to advance earlier because she was worried about her condition. You're worried about me, but you're not worried about Papa, Raizel asked in a teasing tone. Why should I worry about that idiot? Lilith complained. If he had only told me about your plan, I wouldn't have been this anxious. But if we had told you, you wouldn't have acted the way you did. Both of you are cruel. Do you know that my heart almost broke when I saw you get stabbed? How can the 2 of you do this to me? Lilith complained as she shed bitter tears while hugging William tightly. I'm sorry, William patted Lilith's back in order to comfort her. However, the battle is not yet over. Ma, I need it now. Are you talking about that? Yes, after you and Papa became one, his body gained the ability to contain your power, Mama. Now is the time to put it to use and show that Dread Lord that the one who will have the last laugh will be us. Lilith nodded. Pay him back for the suffering I experienced. Papa will pay him tenfold, Raizel nodded with a smile. She then lifted Lilith's chin and pressed her lips over hers. Lilith's body glowed briefly before it lost all of its strength. Raizel supported the Amazon princess body and held her tight. Pa, I'm ready on my side, Raizel said. How about you? Inside the Black Tower. Several skeleton bones littered the ground as William made his way to the empty throne room. The reason Morax always sat on the Dragonbone throne was due to the fact that it was the main control mechanism that controlled the Black Tower. Currently, Morax had already gained full control of the tower, so he no longer needed to sit on the throne. The 9 mirrors were in the process of gathering all the laws of the Deadlands and merging it into one single law that would be absorbed by Morax, giving him power over life and death. The Dreadlord was currently unaware of what was happening inside the Black Tower, because it was enveloped by a barrier that prevented anyone from getting in, with the exception of the Dreadlord himself. After dealing with the Death Knights that were guarding the throne, the young beauty sat on it and closed her eyes. I'm ready, William replied. How is your mother? She's complaining to me and says that she will murder you later, Raizel replied with a giggle. Sounds like she's fine. She is, but she's currently unable to move. William smiled. He knew that Lilith might be very angry with him right now, but there was nothing he could do about it. For now, he set aside the Amazon princess wrath and focused his attention on the matter at hand. Raizel, be careful. I will. Let's switch now, Papa. Okay. The young beauty sitting in the throne room slowly opened her eyes. She then briefly scanned her surroundings before resting her hands on the armrest of the Dragonbone throne. Now that she was safely inside the Black Tower, it was time to move on to the 3rd phase of their plan. Raizel narrowed her eyes as she started to snatch control over the Black Tower right under the Dread Lord's nose. Do you think that you've already won? Wade chuckled as he made a gesture around them. They were undead as far as the eyes could see, and they had trapped the dwarven and demonic warriors in an encirclement. Wade was confident that no matter what the two did, they wouldn't be able to escape this place, so he found Eldon's words very funny. "I don't think we've won," Wade replied. "We have won. Surrender now and Lord Morax might find it in his heart to show mercy on you all. Refuse and you will still be joining us, but as undead. Either way, we will still be comrades in the end, so why continue to resist?" Before Wade could continue his lengthy persuasion, a commotion broke out in the east as several skeletons were blown high into the air as they broke into pieces. A few moments later, a lone figure broke out from the encirclement and casually strolled towards Eldon and Swiper. "Sorry I'm late," William said with a smile. "Well then, shall we get this party started?" Morax watched William from afar. He would love to personally smash the half-elf with his own hands, but he couldn't leave the Black Tower at the moment. 8 mirrors floated around the tip of the tower, while the 9th hovered at its center. Morax floated 100 meters above the 9th mirror. A moment later, the Black Tower pulsed with power. The dark clouds hanging above it parted, revealing a blood-red moon. Morax sighed as he watched this scene because he knew what was going to happen next. The Dreadlord glanced at the 7 glowing mirrors and knew that the time was close at hand. When the 8th mirror finishes collecting the law of rebirth, all 8 mirrors will then transfer the laws they collected to the 9th mirror, merging them all into one, Morax mused. 7 have been collected thus far, which means that the eclipse will start right about now. As if waiting for that moment, the bottom corner of the blood-red moon started to darken. The lunar eclipse that opened the pathways to the different worlds would allow Morax to travel freely without being detected by the gods. Just a little more, Morax thought. Just a little more and I will be unstoppable. Just a little more, Razel thought as beads of sweat formed on her forehead. She didn't try to take control of the Black Tower right away. Instead, she familiarized herself with the important functions of the tower. If she tried to hijack the tower, Morax would immediately feel it and stop her from getting in the way of his plans. What Razel wanted to do was to use a blitzkrieg attack that would render the Death Lord momentarily helpless. "Papa, has the lunar eclipse started?" Razel asked as she finished analyzing the Black Tower's basic functions. "Yes," William replied as he smashed a Death Knight to pieces. "Right now, it's halfway finished." "Understood." Razel took a deep breath as she readied herself for the next phase of their plan. During this time, she would be vulnerable to all attacks. So, if Morax decided to attack her, she would have no means to defend herself. As if sensing her fears from their connection, William's teasing voice echoed in Razel's head. "Are you scared?" William asked. Although he couldn't see his daughter, he could guess what she was thinking at the moment. The throne room inside the Black Tower was a cold and lonely place. It was very easy for people to lose their warmth and think of negative thoughts while sitting on the Dragonbone throne. William wished that he could take her place, but he also had an important role to play. The only thing he could do was give Razel words of encouragement that everything was going to be all right. "A little," Razel replied. "Don't be," Lilith's voice suddenly interjected between their conversation. "The 3 of us are in this together. You are not alone." Razel felt something warm spread inside her chest as she gripped the cold armrests of the Dragonbone throne with shaking hands. Truth be told, she was very scared, to the point that she couldn't stop her body from trembling. Even so, Lilith's voice and love reached her, so she was starting to regain her composure. "It's almost time, Razel," William said. "The 8th mirror has nearly collected the laws of rebirth. It's now or never." Razel took a deep breath as she held the armrests of the throne firmly. Now was not the time to think of scary things. "Pa, I will wait for both of you in the future," Razel said as she fully activated the power of Lilith's divinity of greed. "Just you wait, Morax. There is nothing in this world that I can't steal." Chapter 857, "Today, I shall be the king of this world." Morax's gaze was focused on the eighth mirror that was slowly being filled up by the law of rebirth. The Deadlands had 8 laws, and the laws of death and rebirth were the most important of them all. Above his head, the lunar eclipse was almost complete, and it would take at most a half a minute for everything to fall in place. William glanced at the Black Tower as he fought off against the undead alongside Eldon and Swiper. He knew that Razel would make a move at the last minute in order to thwart Morax's plan for complete domination. Suddenly, the Deadlands was covered in darkness. Only the glowing mirrors and the Black Tower, which was pulsing with power, were the only light sources in the area. "It's time," Morax grinned, as the first mirror shot a beam of light towards the 9th mirror, which was floating above the tower. One by one, all of the mirrors did the same, and transferred the power of the laws that they had collected to the 9th mirror in order to merge them together. The Black Tower glowed and pulsed like a beating heart as the 9th mirror completed the merger of the laws of the Deadlands. A concentrated golden ball appeared on its surface as it faced upwards, reflecting Morax's triumphant gaze. "Today I shall be the king of this world," Morax declared as he raised his hands in elation. "Tomorrow I will be the conqueror of worlds." Morax's laughter spread across the Deadlands as the 9th mirror glowed brightly. Clearly, it was about to shoot out a beam of light that would infuse the power of the Deadlands in Morax's body. This power was more than enough to heal all of the injuries he had received from the gods and allow him to return to his peak. As a former god, Morax had long wished to return to the celestial realm and take revenge on those that had plotted against him. With a sound that resembled the shattering of 1,000 crystals, the 9th mirror released the powers that it had gathered into its body. Morax closed his eyes in ecstasy as he waited for the power to surge inside his body. It was at that moment when an explosion erupted on the battlefield where William and the rest were fighting. Eldon and Swiper looked in awe as the red-headed teenager floated in the air, bathed in a golden light that illuminated the entire Deadlands like a sun. "Good job, Razel," William said softly as a devilish grin appeared on his face. A series of notification sounds echoed inside William's head, and rows upon rows of text appeared on his status page. Ding! Vampiric Necromancer has reached its maximum level. Automatic class ascension initiated. Congratulations! You have changed your job class to Vampiric Prince. Ding! Vampiric Prince has reached its maximum level. Automatic class ascension initiated. Congratulations! You have changed your job class to Vampire King. Ding! Due to the power of the Deadlands, your job class Vampire King will be upgraded to its ultimate class, Vampire Progenitor. Do you wish to proceed? Yes/no. Although this was the first time that he had heard about an ultimate class, William didn't hesitate and chose yes. He knew what he was up against, and he needed all the power he could muster in order to stand toe-to-toe with a pseudo-god. Immediately, the blood vessels in his body bulged as the power of the ultimate class spread across his entire body. William was familiar with this feeling because it was the same feeling he felt when he had merged his job classes together and obtained the Einhajar job class. Morax, who felt that something was amiss, opened his eyes and saw the 9th mirror shoot a beam of golden light towards the half-elf, who was fighting on the outskirts of the Black Tower. "Impossible," Morax gasped in shock at the unbelievable scene that was happening in front of him. "This is impossible. What is happening?" The Dread Lord looked at the 9th mirror in disbelief because he couldn't understand what was happening. Everything was going according to his plans, but at the last second, the power he had gathered for himself was now being given to his mortal enemy. "Bastard!" Morax shouted as he smashed the 9th mirror into pieces, but it was already too late. The laws of the Deadlands were now merging with William's body. Even from afar, Morax could feel the half-elf's power rising at an incredible rate. A few seconds later, Morax felt his connection with the Black Tower slowly start to weaken. It was then he realized that someone had tampered with the tower's settings and ruined the plan he had painstakingly made over the years. "You hateful wench," Morax roared in anger when he sensed Razel's presence inside the throne room. "I'll kill you." Morax immediately descended from the sky with fury, with every intention of ripping the young beauty to shreds for getting in his way. Razel immediately raised the defenses of the Black Tower that were under her command, but all of them were broken by the enraged Dread Lord, who had punched a hole in the tower itself in order to reach the throne room as fast as possible. The young beauty had just managed to take over 50% of the Black Tower's functions, so she wasn't able to fully use its maximum capabilities. Even so, she still managed to slow down the Dread Lord's descent, buying herself some time to acquire more of Black Tower's abilities. "Die, wench!" Morax hurled 2 black spears that pierced through the Black Tower's floors and descended upon the defenseless lady sitting in the throne room. A pained cry escaped Razel's lips as the 2 spears penetrated her chest and shoulder, pinning her to the throne. The young beauty managed to move aside at the last second, preventing the black spear from piercing her heart directly. Razel bit her lips until it bled to prevent herself from screaming. Her blood stained her clothes, and her attempt to seize full control of the tower came to a complete halt. Due to the injuries she received, the defenses that she had erected all shattered, allowing Morax to descend to the throne room unhindered. "You whore, how dare you get in my way?" Morax's thrust his clawed hands towards the girl's chest, with the intention of ripping her heart out from her body. However, before the Dread Lord's hand could even touch the young beauty's body, a foot suddenly appeared in his line of sight. Everything happened so fast that Morax didn't have time to process what happened. The only thing he knew was that he felt pain at the center of his face before his entire body slammed into the wall of the throne room. "You," Morax roared as he pointed at the half-elf, who was currently pulling out one of the black spears from the young woman's body. "I should have killed you. I should have ended your life long ago." The Dread Lord's hateful shouts passed through the half-elf's ears like a passing breeze. After pulling out the 2 spears that had impaled his daughter, William started to heal her injuries using the power of his blood. A few seconds later, the gaping wounds regenerated completely, leaving no scars behind. "Sorry I'm late," William said as he patted Razel's head. "Don't worry, you're safe now." Razel's tears streamed down on her face as William's warm hand washed away the fear and pain that had taken hold of her body a few moments ago. "Lilith, look after Razel," William stated as he faced the Dread Lord, whose face had already contorted into that of a beast due to extreme anger. The Amazon princess appeared beside William. She then hurriedly went to hug Razel and wrapped the young beauty in her protective embrace. "Kill him," Lilith ordered. "Make him pay for hurting my daughter." William nodded. "Don't worry, I planned to do that from the very start." He had no intention of letting Morax live after what he had done to Razel. Not only did the Dreadlord make a weapon that would enslave his daughter's soul, the hateful Avril wanted to take everything from her as well. This had crossed William's bottom line, and he had been feeling murderous long ago. Although he was still not a match against the pseudo-god in front of him, it was only a matter of time before the power of the Deadlands finished merging with his body. When that time came, the half-elf believed that he would have the power to smash Morax's body and soul to a pulp, using the laws that governed life and death. Chapter 858. Does this look like the face of mercy to you? The Black Tower trembled as two figures fought inside it in close combat. The powerful shockwaves buffeted the Amazon princess and the young beauty that was seated on the throne. William was doing his best to mitigate the damage that was being sent in their direction by using his body to deflect the shockwaves that were supposed to hit them. The half-elf's powerful regeneration ability was able to heal the damages that he received from exchanging blows with Morax. The Dreadlord knew that William was only buying time for the power of the laws to merge with the half-elf's body completely. In order to slow down the merging process, Morax had unleashed several attacks at the two ladies, forcing William to go to their defense, which made him suffer serious injuries. Razel and Lilith were not being idle either, as they worked together to take control of the Black Tower. Currently, the Amazon princess, Divinity, was inside Razel, so she was using her connection with the power of greed to halve the pressure that the young beauty was facing. Together, they managed to make great progress as they took over 70% of the Black Tower's authority. "Will, I'm sending you and that bastard outside of the tower," Lilith said via telepathy. "I know you can't fight him to the fullest because you are busy protecting us." "Okay," William replied. "Do it now. He is charging a powerful attack, and I may not be able to block it in time." Just as the two finished talking to each other, the Dreadlord raised his hand to unleash one of his ultimate moves. "Infernal Flare," Morax shouted. He planned to unleash a hellfire and burn everything in the throne room to ashes. He no longer cared about the tower. His only desire was to kill the insects that had gotten in his way. A powerful explosion rocked the entire Deadlands as a blazing inferno raised a quarter of the undead army, obliterating them completely. Swiper, who was near the area of the explosion, was blasted away by the scorching gusts of air that made him scream in fear and pain. "Back away," Eldon ordered as the dwarves under his command ran towards the opposite side of the battlefield. The sudden attack caught him and everyone else by surprise, and the only thing they could do was to get away from the Dread Lord, who no longer had an amused expression on his face. "I knew I should have killed you earlier." Morax gnashed his teeth in both anger and regret as he glared at the half-elf in front of him. "If only you hadn't arrived here in the Deadlands. If only you were not here." William didn't comment and simply hovered in the air, allowing the Dread Lord to shout at him. It was at that moment when he noticed movement out of the corner of his eye. A certain pretty lady casually walked towards the entrance of the Black Tower with a charming smile on her face. Upon noticing that William had noticed her, Kathy gave the half-elf a playful wink before disappearing in its interior. The corner of William's lips twitched because he didn't expect Kathy to be so carefree while all of them were fighting with their lives on the line. There were still so many things that he didn't know about her, but there was one thing that he was certain of. The mysterious lady was on their side. "I have had enough of this farce," Morax declared. "If I can't take it, then none of you can have it. I will destroy everything in this world. No one shall leave this place alive." Morax's body enlarged as he activated the power of his god core. After staying in the Deadlands for many years, half of his injuries had recovered. Even so, it was still not enough for him to get back to his peak strength. Even so, the Dreadlord was still a former god of hell. He had sealed his domain when he was driven out of hell, so most of his forces were still intact. Now that it had come to this, he would forcefully open the door of the Deadlands to allow his minions to descend upon the world. "I will show you the power of a god," Morax roared. A blazing flame engulfed his entire body as a powerful pressure descended from the heavens. Eldon, Swiper, and their subordinates were forced to kneel on the ground because of the divine power that was crushing their bodies like a mountain. A few minutes later, the flame receded. A humanoid bull wearing red armor and wielding a great axe appeared in front of everyone. It breathed fire from its nose as it locked its gaze on William, who was looking back at him with a weird expression. "Rejoice, half-elf, you have forced me to show you my true form," Morax sneered. "You can die knowing that it was a god of hell that ended your miserable life." Morax pointed his finger towards the eclipsed moon that was emitting a golden halo. Half a minute later, war cries spread across the battlefield as red portals appeared in the skis of the Deadlands. Demonic creatures with red skin, wielding many weapons, fell from these portals like rain. Morax, the great Earl of Hell, had finally decided to go all out and take control of the Deadlands by force. Although the mirrors had been destroyed, they would reform again after 100 years had passed. The laws of the world would also return once he killed the hateful half-elf in front of him. If he could wait for another 100 years, his plan for vengeance was still a possibility. After making a quick detour, Cassie made her way towards the throne room, while dragging Avril's body that was almost like a dried husk. "You know Will has many shortcomings," Kathy said as she walked with steady steps. "He's far from being a perfect person. He can be very smart at times and dumb on other occasions. Just like everyone else, he has a reverse scales." The pretty lady chuckled as she continued to drag Avril by her hair. "Touch any members of his family and he will go on a killing spree. If not for Raisel's reminder, you would have been dead by now. I'm sure you're wondering why you're still alive, right? Don't worry, you don't need to know the answer." Kathy's devilish smile made Avril's body shudder uncontrollably. Those were the eyes of a person that was about to kill someone. "Although I wasn't the one that gave birth to Raisel, she is still William's daughter," Kathy stated. "Meaning, she is also one of my daughters. You be *TCH, how dare you hurt a member of our family?" She tried to open her lips to plead guilty, but a wave of Kathy's hands sealed it completely. "Save your breath," Kathy said as she pointed at her smiling face. "Does this look like the face of mercy to you?" Avril's eyes started to tear up because she knew, with absolute certainty, that the pretty lady that was smiling down on her would not stop until her very soul ceased to exist. Chapter 859, the strongest adversary that he had faced in his lifetime. When Cassie appeared in the throne room, Lilith, who was seated beside Raisel on the Dragonbone throne, looked at her in confusion. "Cassie, what are you doing here?" Lilith was about to ask more, but she noticed the person that the pretty lady was dragging behind her. Although Avril was almost unrecognizable in her current form, Lilith's hatred towards the elf had allowed her to know her identity instantly. "Okay, calm down, Lilith," Kathy said with a smile. "I know how badly you want to kill this *TCH, but she still serves a purpose. Isn't that right, Raisel?" "Yes," Raisel nodded. The young beauty stared hard at Kathy. The diary had briefly talked about her existence, but there had been no detailed reports about the things she did in the Deadlands. Her name would also be spoken by her mama, Lilith, from time to time, calling her a very sly person. Since she hadn't seen Cassie at all while she had lived with her family, she thought that the pretty lady was just someone his ma and pa had only met in the Deadlands. Raisel didn't expect that Cassie would appear in the throne room, dragging Avril behind her. "I think it's about time to put this *TCH to good use," Kathy said with a smile. "Things are getting quite problematic outside, and if we don't hurry, Will is going to get his *S handed to him." "Were you always this crass with your words?" Lilith blinked, because this was the first time she saw Kathy acting like this. Her impression of the pretty lady changed as she watched her walk towards them. "Well, there are many things you don't know about me," Cassie replied with a smirk, "but we don't have time to talk about that now. Raisel, do the honors." The young beauty nodded her head. She then activated one of the abilities of the Black Tower that required a sacrifice to work. Avril's body floated in the air until it was securely placed on a floating pedestal. "Forgive me," Avril forcefully opened her lips to beg for forgiveness. "Spare me." Raisel gazed at the elf who was looking at her with pleading eyes. Truth be told, she didn't know that Avril had planned to enslave her, because the only thing that was written in the diary were the words. "Fortunately, I had swapped bodies with Raisel on that fateful day. If not, I might have lost someone very dear to me forever." This entry in the diary had scared her when she had read it. She didn't dare ask her parents what it meant, because they would become angry at her for stealing something that she shouldn't have taken. Because of this, she had done her best to master her soul-swapping abilities until she was able to control it fully. "I forgive you," Raisel said, "but I will not spare your life. I'm sorry." Gritting her teeth, she activated the power of the Black Tower. Several beams of light pierced through Avril's body, making her shriek in pain. The young beauty averted her gaze because she didn't want to look at the horrifying scene of Avril being burned alive. Lilith and Kathy, on the other hand, watched this with undisguised satisfaction on their faces. They watched until Avril's entire body turned into ashes, leaving only a blue orb of light behind. Avril's soul hovered above the pedestal and glowed brightly. The entire tower trembled as several runes appeared on its exterior. The blue orb of light turned into particles of light as its soul power was all used up. After powering up the Black Tower, it shot a golden beam of light towards the moon in the sky. Petty tricks, Morax sneered at the Black Tower. He didn't know what Lilith and Razel did, but he had full confidence that he had the power to overcome all obstacles in his current form. In the air and on the ground, Morax's demonic legion had already made William's allies lose their morale. If it was only the undead, they could still muster some form of resistance with the half-elf by their side. Now that a demonic army that numbered in the millions had appeared in front of them, they felt as if they no longer had a chance of winning. "Kill everyone, but leave this half-elf to me," Morax ordered. "I will personally deal with you and make you wish you were never born." "Is that so?" William sneered as he flicked his arm to the side. "It's not only you who can call for backup, I can also play that game." After the beam of light shot towards the sky, William's connection with his Ring of Conquest had activated. Although Morax had a million-strong army at his disposal, the half-elf didn't give a fart. "Come forth and show these wannabes what a real army looks like," William ordered as several golden portals appeared around him. Soon, the denizens of the Thousand Beast domain appeared in the Deadlands. Lameshes flew in the sky, while countless goblins, revenant minotaurs, centaurs, and other beasts poured out of the portals on the ground. Urchitu, Soglav, Bastion, Fenrir, Skadrez, Sharks, Xerxes, Daz, Jareth, and all the other commanders of William's legion led their own forces in an organized manner. They were not new to the arts of war, so it was an easy task for them to rally their troops in preparation for a large-scale battle. Half a minute later, a giant red lobster exited one of the portals. Sitting on top of its head was a rainbow-colored anteater that was looking down on the demonic legion with an arrogant gaze. "Come," Kasaganaga shouted in its arrogant voice. "Let's show these small fries what we are made of." Over 1,000,000 Class A Requiem ants that were at their peak poured out of the portals behind the anteater. Right now, all of the ants listened to Kasaganaga's commands in fear that he would treat them as a snack if they performed badly. These Requiem ants, which had taken the form of crabs, octopuses, and lobsters, were only a step away from becoming centennial beasts. This made them a force to be reckoned with, and not even William could gauge how destructive they would be once they had crossed into the centennial rank. When that happened, even a kingdom would find it hard to resist an attack of such magnitude. The boisterous demonic legion, which had been shouting their war cries a minute ago, all gazed in shock as an army that was on par with them made their presence known. "You guys take care of these small fries," William ordered his 1,000-beast army before shifting his attention to Morax. "Out of all the forms you chose to take, it had to be a bull. Do you know, you just shot yourself in the foot." William didn't know if the suppression of the shepherd job class affected pseudogods as well. However, since his other powers had temporarily returned to his body, he no longer felt helpless when it came to fighting against the strongest adversary that he was about to face in his lifetime. Chapter 860, I want to know how it will all end. Inside the shrine in Hestia Academy. Shannon's brush danced on the canvas, and images started to form on its pristine white surface. She worked tirelessly, giving life to scene that was forming right before her eyes. Her face had a flushed expression as she immersed herself in her craft, painting the scenes in her vision and creating a record for the world to see. A giant humanoid bull with red skin and eyes that glowed golden appeared on the right side of the canvas. In front of it was a teenage boy, with his robes flapping around behind him. Under them, a chaotic mess of men, beasts, demons, and undead waged war against each other. Above them, bone dragons, gargoyles, lamicious, and birds with different colors like the rainbow fought for supremacy. Shannon's breathing became ragged as the first portrait was finished. The canvas floated to the side, and a blank once took its place. The young lady once again rested her brush on its surface and drew the next image that she saw. She was so occupied with her painting that she didn't notice that she was no longer alone inside her room. A handsome man with silver hair and blue eyes held the first painting she made and looked at it with a grim expression on his face. He recognized the humanoid bull as well as the red-headed teenager that was facing off against it. Expressions of shock and disbelief appeared in the depths of his eyes, but he didn't doubt the image that the young lady had drawn. For that was the power that he had bestowed upon her, as a way to compensate the lady for her inability to walk outside and discover the world with her own two eyes. Morax, so you are still alive. Armin gripped the corner of the canvas, almost snapping it into two. Fortunately, he recovered himself at the last moment and managed to save the painting that the young lady had drawn. It was at that moment when he noticed that Shannon was looking in his direction, a confused expression on her face. "What's wrong, father?" Shannon inquired. The silver-haired man shook his head. "Nothing. This drawing of yours is pretty good. Do you know where this scene is happening right now?" Shannon shook her head. "I don't know where it is. The only thing I do know is that I think it's not in this world." The young lady pointed at the canvas in front of her. Amidst the chaotic images of the battle that was raging on its surface, a certain black tower stood up in the background. The silver-haired man's eyes shrunk after he recognized the black tower in the painting. "The Deadlands, I should have known," the silver-haired man muttered. "Don't mind me, just continue to paint. I want to know how it will all end." Shannon nodded with a smile. It was very rare for her father to visit her, so she didn't mind painting for him. Once again, her brush danced on the canvas as if it was a living thing, and drew the world that was on the borders of life and death. Soglav and Swiper met on the chaotic battlefield, and the first thought that crossed their minds was, "This person is just like me. We hate losing, and we are afraid of dying." The demonic boar eyed the demonic dog before giving him a brief nod. Soglav returned his greeting as he shared his name with the creature that shared his characteristics. "Soglav. Swiper. You're with that brat, William?" Swiper asked. Soglav nodded as he slashed a death knight that tried to sneak attack him from behind. "I've known him since he was a kid," Soglav replied. "What's wrong?" "Can he beat that guy?" Swiper glanced at the battle that was raging in the heavens. Currently, the half-elf was on the defensive side and was unable to even touch the humanoid bull that was swinging its axe with fury. When the demonic dog looked up, William's arm was cut off from his body and fell down from the sky. The demonic dog casually used a dark whip to grab the arm and pull it in his direction. After gaining possession of the half-elf's arm, he took a bite of it and immediately spat afterwards. "Damn wrong arm," Soglav complained as he threw William's arm back to its owner. "Oi, Will, next time you get one of your arms cut off, make sure that it's not the left one." The half-elf caught the arm and reattached it to his body before giving Soglav the middle finger. After doing so, the half-elf moved to the side, barely dodging the follow-up attack of the Great Earl from Hell. The corner of Swiper's lips twitched after seeing this unbelievable act of camaraderie between the demonic dog and the half-elf. For a brief moment, he wanted to slap himself to know if he was dreaming. "Well, see you around," Soglav said, before jumping towards a densely packed formation of low-leveled undead. Even in war, the demonic dog chose to play it safe and only bullied the monsters that were weaker than it. Swiper watched him go while clenching his fists. "I knew I didn't choose the losing side," Swiper muttered, as he rejoined his subordinates in battle. Although the half-elf seemed to be suffering from a one-sided beating, the demonic boar believed that his side wouldn't lose no matter what. Damn, as expected, this bastard is strong, William thought, as he unleashed a barrage of punches and kicks at the human or demon that had been bullying him since the beginning of the battle. Although his suppression worked, it merely lowered Morax's strength to that of a demigod that was at its middle stages. Right now he was currently a vampire progenitor, the sovereign of all vampires, and yet his rank was only at the peak of the myriad realm. Although there was only one tier between a myriad beast and a demigod, the gap between the ranks was similar to heaven and earth. Only William's powerful regeneration ability was helping him cope with the damage that was slowly stacking up on his body. Morax blocked William's attacks with his weapon and prevented any blow from landing on his body. I need a weapon, William thought. His great axe is a divine weapon, and although he can't unleash its power due to his current rank, it is still sharp enough to slice me in half if I'm not careful. The half-elf was unable to summon any of his weapons, so he was only using his bare hands to fight the monster that was slowly pushing him into a corner. He knew that if this went on, Morax would definitely triumph over him, so William was busy thinking of ways to disarm him and put an end to his one-sided beating. Inside the glory shelter, the small wooden mallet that William and Lilith had found in the Deadlands started to shake. Lightning snaked across its surface and a metallic hum echoed inside the room. It was as if it was being called by someone who had fought alongside it several thousand years ago. The attack of a demigod was nothing to sneeze at. William's left arm had almost been completely incinerated, and his body had received serious injury as well. If he hadn't blocked Morax's attack using his full strength, Eldon, Swiper, and their subordinates would have been erased from the face of the Deadlands. William glared hatefully at the bastard who was aiming for his family members, as he did his best to hasten the regeneration of his body. Unfortunately, his recovery was happening at a very slow rate because of the divinity that was infused in the demonic Earl's full-powered strike. Although Morax's rank had been suppressed to the middle stages of the demigod rank, his attacks still contained the divinity of a god. If not for the fact that the laws of the Deadlands were protecting William's body from total annihilation, he would have been turned into charred coal by now. As the ladies inside the Black Tower saw this outcome, they stared daggers at the petty humanoid bull, who resorted to dirty tactics in order to harm their loved one. "Strengthen the barrier now," Lilith ordered. "We need to buy time until Will comes to save us." Lilith understood Morax's intention. The demonic Earl had decided to use them as hostages in order to coerce William to surrender. This was something that she didn't approve of. Lilith knew that they had to resist no matter what. Razel also knew the gravity of the situation and activated the barrier of the Black Tower to its limits. Kathy simply stood beside the throne with both arms crossed over her chest. She had a calm expression on her face because she knew that William would stop at nothing in order to save his family. William gritted his teeth as he forced his regeneration abilities to speed up its process. Undead gargles descended from the sky in order to attack him, but the angry birds and Lamachus made sure that they didn't come close to their master. "I need something to be able to fight him head-on," William muttered. "I need the power to contend against a god." Morax had arrived at the Black Tower and was attacking the barrier like a berserked bull. Although the barrier was holding up for now, several small cracks were starting to appear on its surface. Clearly, it was only a matter of time before the barrier broke, and when that happened, Morax would be able to capture his family members. The half-elf closed his eyes in order to calm himself down. More than anything else, he knew that he needed to think clearly because this was a crucial moment. "What should I do?" William asked his heart. "What can I do?" It was at that moment when the strand of darkness that had infiltrated his body long ago started to stir. It had remained dormant for years, waiting for an opportunity to strike. However, before it could make its presence known, dark clouds covered the sky in William's sea of consciousness. Thunder roared in the heavens, and lightning bolts struck the sea repeatedly in defiance. The entirety of William's being was in uproar, as if trying to call something from beyond its borders. Suddenly, the memory of the last battle in Asgard appeared in William's memories. Odin, Thor, Loki, and Heimdall had already fallen in battle, along with his beloved wives, whose lives had burned up like fireworks in the sky. It was at that moment when he found himself standing on the battlefield, surrounded by countless foes. And the raging flames of destruction had started to creep upon Yggdrasil's body, and he could hear its woes. In that dark moment, when no hope was no longer in sight, a hymn of time long forgotten broke through the sanctity of the night. William's tears streamed down his face as he raised his hand to call a friend across time and space. Bring in the hammer to sanctify the bride. On the maiden's knees, let Mjolnir lie. From the heavens, I can hear Mjolnir's roar. And in the thunder, I can feel the heart of Thor. From somewhere far away, a metallic hum answered his call. A distant friend had come to smite them all. Chapter 862, Do you know the first law of the universe? Thunder rumbled across the skis of the Deadlands, and lightning descended like rain. The small wooden mallet in Razel's room broke through the windows and flew in the direction of the person that had shared the last moments of Asgard with it. In the span of a few heartbeats, the small wooden mallet landed in William's grasp, and with it, a powerful shockwave blew away all the foes that surrounded him. Fight for me one more time, dear friend, William said softly as he gripped the wooden mallet firmly in his hand. This time, we're not fighting for Asgard, but for the future. The wooden mallet hummed as if to reply to the half-elf's words. A second later, its body transformed into the divine artifact that only those it had chosen could wield. William raised Mjolnir towards the sky, and all the lightning bolts in the world descended upon him as if to pay tribute to their master's call for conquest. William's charred arm immediately recovered, as did the rest of the injuries his body had received. Golden lightning snaked around his body, and a metallic suit of armor that once belonged to the god of thunder covered him completely. Let's go, old friend, William muttered. It's time to smash the face of a god once again. Mjolnir hummed in agreement as William transformed into a golden lightning bolt that streaked towards the demonic Earl, who was trying to harm the people who were important to him. Morax, who had witnessed the whole thing, roared as he swung his divine axe towards the golden lightning that was about to strike him down. A sound that resembled a clap of thunder reverberated across the battlefield as a powerful shockwave blew Morax and William away from each other. This strength, Morax muttered as he eyed the small hammer in William's hand. A divine weapon, here in this godforsaken place, impossible. William, who was not aware of the confusion that was plaguing Morax's mind, once again transformed into a lightning bolt and reappeared in front of the giant bull's face. Without any warning, the half-elf smashed his hammer on Morax's face, but the demonic Earl was someone that was well versed in the art of war. Although he was surprised by William's newfound power, he was a god and had fought against other gods in hell. Morax shrunk his body until it was only 2 meters tall in order to avoid William's frontal attack at the last second. However, before the demonic Earl could celebrate his genius move, a hammer struck the top of his head, which sent him crashing towards the ground, screaming in pain. After hitting its target, the hammer flew back to William's hand, and the half-elf once again transformed into a lightning bolt to deliver another strike at the bastard who dared to harm his family. He didn't intend to show Morax any mercy. There was only one thing in William's mind, and that was to pound the demonic Earl's face to oblivion. Morax forcefully controlled his body as he landed on his feet, just in time to block William's attack that shattered the ground under the demonic earl's feet. You're still not in the ranks of the demigods, and yet you are able to fight on par with me. How can this be? Morax shouted. Answer me. On par with you? You must be joking, William sneered as lightning snaked around Mjolnir's body. I fought against a god in the past using a mortal's body. Right now, you're not a god but a demigod, and you still have the guts to say that I'm on par with you. Did that strike to your head earlier rattle your brain? Morax roared as he tried to push William away. However, what confused him was that, instead of getting the upper hand, he was the one being pushed down by the red-headed teenager whose strength was rising at an alarming rate. Then a realization hit the former god, which made his blood run cold. Don't tell me that he has successfully merged with the laws of the Deadlands. Morax's face became grim as he thought of the possibility. This was the only explanation that he could think of. Even if William acquired a divine weapon, the demonic earl was also wielding a divine weapon. Also, his rank was above the half-elf by more than a full tier. One was at the peak of the myriad realm, while the other was at the middle stages of a demigod. Even with a divine weapon in William's hand, the gap shouldn't be that great. This forced Morax to think of another possibility, and that was that the laws of the Deadlands had finally been absorbed by William's body, making him the god of this world who hovered between life and death. As if proving his greatest fear, the air around the two combatants trembled as space started to contort. Do you know the first law of the universe? William inquired as a devilish smile appeared on his face. The first law states that the normal laws of physics do not apply when I hold this hammer. What nonsense are you talking about? Morax gritted his teeth as he tried to use his strength to overpower the half-elf, but it was of no use. You still don't understand? Then let me show you. William sneered as he flew upwards to distance himself from Morax. He then raised his hammer as the entire world heeded his command. Soon, the undead on the ground, as well as the demonic legion under Morax's control, all floated in the air, as if gravity stopped existing. The power I wield will obliterate one and all, William declared in a domineering voice. Pierce through the darkness and hear my call. Thunder God's wrath. The world was enveloped in a bright light that drove the darkness away like a tide. William's army, Eldon, Swiper, and the other people in the Deadlands shielded their eyes from the blinding light. It was also at that moment that they lost their ability to hear. However, they were considered the lucky ones, because William had only shielded his allies from an ear-shattering pain that followed after the world was engulfed in light. Morax, who was the only one capable of piercing through the veil, saw everything in real time. He had once witnessed the end of a world, and the scene in front of him made him remember that awe-inspiring sight. Cries of pain and suffering reverberated across the land, as Morax's prided demonic legion that served him for thousands of years, bathed in a sea of lightning bolts. To those that didn't have any strength, peace was just a fantasy, a dream that they could enjoy in their sleep. Come, you insect, Morax roared as he pointed his axe at William. I will make sure that you witness how I deal with your women after I'm done with you. Morax activated the power of his god core to forcefully break through William's suppression. From the middle stages of the demigod, his rank climbed up to its peak, and once again stopped at the pseudo-god rank. The giant humanoid bull's body turned golden as the power of divinity covered it completely. Morax couldn't stay in this form for long because he still hadn't recovered from the injuries he received in the past. He was currently using the souls of his subordinates that had died in battle to temporarily raise his power to the pseudo-god rank in order to deal with William. Morax vanished from where he stood. A second later, he appeared behind William as he swung his axe sideways. Just like always, Morax chose to attack on a side that was disadvantageous to William. If the half-elf dodged his attack, the ones that would be annihilated were the half-elf's allies. What a petty god, William said as he did a backhand blow to block the axe that was meant to kill those who were fighting on the ground. Hammer and axe collided, creating a shockwave that blew both fighters away. The half-elf knew what Morax intended, so he immediately decided to withdraw his army in order to prevent them from dying under the enraged demonic earl's hand. "All of you return," William ordered. William's army all turned into beams of light that shot towards his body. He wouldn't allow any of them to die because of Morax's dirty tactics that forced him to meet his blows head-on. Seeing that his hostages were decreasing at a rapid rate, Morax teleported to the ground right in front of Eldon, who was ordering his subordinates to retreat. "I liked you, but you chose not to submit. Now perish," Morax shouted as he swung his axe downwards. "You think too highly of yourself," Eldon roared. "Don't look down on dwarves." The sledgehammer in Eldon's hand shone brightly as it met the demonic earl's attack fearlessly. Morax sneered at Eldon's futile attempt to resist the inevitable, but the sneer on his face froze when the impact sent him smashing towards the buildings right behind him. Even William, who was about to help the dwarf, paused in mid-flight after seeing the unbelievable scene in front of him. "So what if you're taller than me?" Eldon spat on the ground. "That doesn't mean that you are stronger than me." The weapon that Eldon was wielding was a memento their family handed down from generation to generation that was personally forged by the dwarf god. The sledgehammer had a special ability inscribed on its core, which allowed it to become stronger the more powerful its opponent was. The name of Eldon's weapon was Godbreaker. It was one of the few weapons in the entire multiverse that had the power to fight against gods. Seeing that his attack had completely baffled Morax and William, Eldon felt smug about himself. He then pointed his finger at William and made a gesture. "Oi, you boy, come here," Eldon said with a smile. William pointed at himself because he was unsure if Eldon was referring to him or not. "Aye, it's you I'm calling, boy," Eldon nodded. "Come here, there's something I need to tell you." William landed beside the dwarf leader, who was appraising him from head to foot. "Although we have met a couple of times, I didn't really look at you properly," Eldon said, as he nodded his head in appreciation. "So, you're the one who's going to be my future great-granddaughter's husband, eh? Not too shabby." Future great-granddaughter's husband." You don't have to worry about this. Although we dwarves prioritize picking our race when we are going to marry, that doesn't mean that we can't make a family with other races." William had a weird look on his face as he shifted his attention to Morax, who had already recovered from the unexpected counterattack that he had received from Eldon. "Well, what I'm trying to tell you is that in the future, when the two of us meet, you better not make my great-granddaughter cry." Eldon then arrogantly pointed his chin at the demonic earl, who was looking at him with disbelief. "Or else, God or no God, your fate will be the same as that bastard." William didn't have to be a genius in order to connect the dots together. Among his wives, only Chiffon matched Eldon's claim. When you say great-granddaughter, are you referring to my wife Chiff?" "Lad, don't say anything. Just know that if fate wills it, we will meet in the future. Let's just deal with this bastard who looks down on mortals first. We can talk after this mess is over." The half-elf nodded his head because he knew that Eldon was right. "For now, take your men inside my domain," William proposed. "I will deal with him myself." "Sounds like a plan," Eldon agreed. "Although I regret not being able to whack him a few more times, we're just pulling your leg down if we remain." William nodded and waved his hand. Using the power of the world, he forcefully sent Eldon, Swiper, and the rest of his allies inside his 1,000-beast domain. After making sure that no one was left behind, the half-elf faced Morax with a devilish smile on his handsome face. "Now it's just you and me," William said. "Let's rumble." In order to utilize this law, he needed the calculation abilities of the Black Tower, which Cassie had passed to him. Morax, who had been pushed back by William, glanced at the half-elf in confusion. However, this only lasted for a brief moment before he once again charged at the half-elf who was hovering above him. "Too slow," William sneered as he vanished from his spot. This time around, Morax saw the half-elf appear in front of him with Mjolnir in mid-strike. He immediately raised his weapon to block, but Mjolnir had already smashed into the side of his face before he could even raise his axe to defend against the attack. Just like he did to William earlier, the half-elf didn't stop and unleashed a barrage of attacks that smashed every part of Morax's body. The second law of the Deadlands was vector manipulation. This allowed William to have complete control over anything that moved in his vicinity. He could forcefully slow or increase the speed of anything that moved. For example, if he threw a rock, that rock's speed could reach almost the speed of light, thereby making a devastating weapon in the half-elf's hands. Unfortunately, this required precise calculations, which William was unable to do on his own. The Black Tower was like a supercomputer that managed everything in the Deadlands. With Kathy's help, these calculations were passed over to William. All he needed to do was execute them like a program, and the effect would work instantly. William unleashed a full-powered strike that had been imbued by the third law of the Deadlands. However, before his attack could land, a crack appeared behind Morax, letting his body disappear in a tear in space. William didn't stop his attack and fired a powerful lightning bolt at the tear of space, in the hope that it would hit the blasted Earl of Hell into pieces. After William's attack ended, the spatial tear disappeared completely, leaving nothing behind. William scanned his surroundings. He believed that Morax had only relocated himself somewhere in the Deadlands using the power of space. Because of this same power, the demonic Earl managed to escape the pursuit of the other gods and managed to save his life by directly appearing in the Deadlands. "This power should have been mine," Morax's hate-filled voice spread across the surroundings. "It should have been mine. You stole it from me." William frowned because even with his acute senses, he wasn't able to perceive where Morax was currently at. The only thing he noticed was that the number of spatial cracks in the Deadlands had increased. "I didn't want to resort to this, but you forced me to." Morax reappeared in one of the spatial cracks that he had created and stared at William from afar. The demonic Earl held a blood-red crystal in his hand and activated it. "I agree to your proposal, but I have one favor to ask," Morax said as an image enveloped with flames appeared within the crystal. "And that is?" a cold voice inquired. William's body unconsciously shuddered when he heard the voice coming out of the crystal. The voice was very familiar to him. The owner of the voice was someone that he wished he could strangle in his dreams. "I need you to take the Black Tower," Morax stated. "It is important to me." "Very well," the cold voice replied. "Give me your coordinates." Morax obliged, and a sneer appeared on his face. A few seconds later, a gigantic spatial tear appeared on the skis of the Deadlands. From within it, two burning eyes that spoke of destruction appeared and gazed at the world of life and death with contempt. Chapter 865, "You want to steal my job." "Surta," William roared, as he unleashed the most powerful lightning attack that he could unleash with the authority that Mjolnir had given him. Since the half-elf wasn't its rightful owner, he could only use half of its full power. Even so, this power was more than enough to contend against foes that were many times stronger than him. The lightning bolt charged at the giant spatial crack in the sky, like a deadly serpent out for the kill. A second later, a blinding light followed by a powerful explosion shook the entire world that sent Morax tumbling hundreds of meters in the air. When the light receded, a gigantic, smoking hand appeared in the sky. The hand was so big that William estimated that it was around 20 meters long. Mjolnir, the flame giant Surta, also known as the god of destruction that razed Asgard to the ground, said in a nostalgic voice. The tear in the sky widened, and the upper half of a giant appeared. "You look a little different," But I still remember who you are, Surtur said as he eyed William. The last Einherjar whose pitiful last struggle gave us a form of entertainment. I see, so you are here in the Deadlands. Surtur's gaze told William that the giant had indeed recognized him, but that was all. For the god of destruction, the Einherjar was just one of the countless beings that had tried to resist the army of destruction and failed miserably. If you were the true owner of that hammer, then perhaps you can even give me a scratch. Surtur laughed. Even at your full strength, you can't even tickle me. Morax, who saw this scene, sneered at the half-elf that was giving him a hard time. In front of a true god, even if William had control over the Deadlands, he would still not have a chance against the god that had destroyed countless worlds. Secure the Black Tower first, Morax reminded Surtur. We can proceed with the next phase of our plan after we have it. Right, Surtur agreed as he fixed his eyes at the Black Tower in the distance. His hand extended towards the Black Tower with the intention to pull it out from the world, but its protective barrier stopped the giant's hand from doing what he wanted. Still resisting, Morax laughed. It's no use, this farce is over. Morax didn't want to resort to asking Surtur for help because he wanted to have the Black Tower for himself. However, right now, he didn't have a choice. William had already learned 2 of the laws of the Deadlands. If given more time, he would learn them all, and by then, Morax would have no chance of defeating him. This was why, even though he would be at a disadvantage in his agreement with Surtur, he still decided to ask his help to get the Black Tower. As long as he could wait for 100 years or so, he would be able to regain his godhood and be on equal terms with the god of destruction. I won't let you. William raised his fist, and a gigantic hand made of earth punched Surtur's hand away. He was using the 3rd law of the Deadlands, and that was world manipulation. Now that he was the owner of the Deadlands, he could control the entire domain as he pleased. He could even use it as a weapon against his enemies if he wished to. Surtur clicked his tongue because he couldn't use his full power through the spatial tier. He was very far away from the Deadlands and was merely using his strength as a god to force his way to crossing the boundaries of space. This was similar to what Morax had done when he created a spatial tier to escape to the Deadlands. Their powers were reduced in this domain because no god could rule this place. Even so, William was using everything he had to stop a single arm from the god of destruction from getting to the Black Tower, where his girls were currently hiding. Seeing that things were getting out of hand, Morax attacked William, which forced the latter to divert his attention. Scram, William roared, as he threw Mjolnir towards the incoming demonic earl that sent the latter skidding hundreds of meters away. This brief pause in concentration was something that Surtur didn't pass up. Using his divinity, he shattered the giant hand made of earth and punched the barrier that protected the Black Tower, shattering it completely. This tower is mine, Surtur declared as he grabbed the Black Tower and began to pull it off from the ground. No! William shouted as he smashed Mjolnir on the giant's hand, but it only created a shower of sparks. It would take some time for him to summon the Earth Hand once again. Time that he didn't have right now. The Black Tower creaked as the ground at its base started to crack. With one mighty pull, Surtur managed to unearth it and started to pull it back to the spatial tier in the sky. William gathered all his strength and the power of the Deadlands for an all-out attack of desperation. He didn't mind if the Black Tower was taken by the god of destruction. However, Lilith, Razel, and Cassie were still inside it. He would not allow them to be taken away from him by the same god who had not only destroyed the 9 realms, but also ended the life of his wives thousands of years ago. Let them go, Surtur. William charged at the spatial tier with the intention of fighting to the death. However, before he could unleash his attack, the hand that was holding the Black Tower was cut off completely. William used the laws of the world to catch the Black Tower and carried it away from the spatial tier. You overstepped your bounds, Surtur, an arrogant voice declared. This place is not for the likes of you. A cloaked person, wielding a scythe, hovered between the god of destruction and William, who was standing in front of the Black Tower. You are the god of destruction, that is the role you have to play, the cloaked person said in a chilling tone. Are you planning to change professions now? You want to steal my job? Surtur looked at his hand, which was lying on the ground, and snorted. A few seconds later, the hand turned into a blazing inferno and rose towards the sky. It then reattached itself to the giant's arm, as if the incident earlier hadn't happened. What are you talking about, Death? Surtur asked in a teasing voice. I just came here to admire the Black Tower. Since I've already seen it with my own eyes, I will take my leave. Surtur's hand reached out to grab Morax, who was looking at the Black Tower in regret. Now that the Master of Death had arrived, they could no longer take the tower under his watchful gaze. This was his domain. In the face of death, even the gods of hell and destruction knew that there were certain boundaries that they couldn't cross. Einherjar, I smell the scent of a dying world in your bones, Surtur said as he glanced at the half-elf who was looking at him with hatred. Sooner or later, our paths will cross again. I look forward to seeing the despair on your face when that time has come. Morax was also looking at William with a sneer. This is not over, Morax laughed. The next time we meet, I will make you pay for all the losses I incurred here. I will torture your soul for all eternity, just you wait. After saying his last words, the spatial tears in the Deadlands disappeared, and the light of the moon slowly spilled out across the land as the darkness started to recede. The cloaked figure then turned around to look at William. The half-elf couldn't see anything except darkness where the cloaked figure's face would be, but he knew for certain that he was facing one of the most ancient gods that had power over death. Since time immemorial, the Deadlands has been a place where those who have fought to escape death have gathered, the cloaked man said in a cold voice. There are only two ways for people to leave this place. The first way is to die and enter the cycle of reincarnation. The second way is to die by my hands and enter the cycle of reincarnation. So what choice are you going to make, boy? William unconsciously gulped as his body shuddered uncontrollably. Although the cloaked figure was standing a good distance away from him, he felt as if his very soul was being held at the palm of that person's hand. He had no doubt in his mind that this being in front of him was stronger than Surtur. A being that could easily end his life by simply looking at him. So, boy, are you ready to enter the cycle of reincarnation? The cloaked figure asked. Sir, isn't there a third option? William inquired. I'm still too young and too handsome to die. I still haven't had any Barbies with my wives yet. I can't possibly die here, right? The cloaked figure raised his scythe high up in the air. Very funny, the cloaked figure replied. Just be glad that I will be the one to personally send you off to the afterlife. The cloaked figure mercilessly swung his scythe to end William's life. It was at this moment when a young lady with long red hair suddenly appeared in front of William and pushed him away. William's eyes widened in shock as he saw Razel smile back at him just as the death scythe slashed her body. I love you, Papa. Take care of Mama for me. Those were the last words that escaped Razel's lips before her body was sliced in half by the god of death, who was well known for not showing mercy to anyone. Chapter 866. I will not let anyone take anything from me, not even death. Razel, William reached out to grab his daughter's body, which had been cut in half. The young beauty eyes were open as she stared lifelessly in front of her. Those beautiful amber eyes that had looked at him mischievously in the past had lost all of their luster. No, why? William glared at the cloaked figure in front of him. We didn't do anything wrong. Why are you doing this to us? Why? I never said you did anything wrong, the cloaked figure replied. There's no right or wrong in death. I don't care if you are a good or bad person, nor do I care if you are poor or rich. Everyone is equal in the face of death. If that girl didn't die right now, she would have died still once I was done with you. The order of people dying in the Deadlands doesn't matter. As long as they die, then my work is done. I'll kill you. Ha, you kill me. I'd like to see you try, boy. Lilith, who saw everything from inside the throne room, screamed in anger and pain. If not for Cassie holding her down, the Amazon would have definitely exited the Black Tower and fought the cloaked figure to the death. Using her authority as the one that hijacked the Black Tower, Razel had instantly teleported herself in front of William to push him away. The Amazon princess wasn't able to do that, so all she could do was watch as her precious daughter died in front of her eyes. "Let me go," Lilith cried out. "I'll kill him, I'll kill him." "No," Cassie shouted. "If you go out right now, Razel's sacrifice would have been in vain." "I said let me go." "I won't." The two ladies wrestled inside the throne room. Lilith was desperately trying to break free from Cassie's hold to have her revenge. Cassie, on the other hand, was doing her best to stop her from throwing her life away. While this was happening, William's rage soared to its limit as he smashed Mjolnir into the cloaked figure's face. The cloaked figure was about to block William's attack with a finger, but then hastily backed away to avoid it completely. The cloaked figure was the god of death, which allowed him to see the souls of every creature in existence. No one could hide in the face of death, so he was able to see the divinities that were inside William's soul. Frankly, the god of death didn't care for the life of the candidates chosen by the gods. However, there was something within William's soul that made him change his mind. "Okay, I won't kill you," the cloaked figure said, "but I will still kill those two ladies hiding inside the Black Tower. You can't stop me." As soon as the cloaked figure said those words, something snapped inside William's head. The entire Deadlands trembled as if a powerful earthquake was shaking heaven and earth. The strand of darkness in William's sea of consciousness pulsed like a beating heart as the half-elf's eyes turned pitched black. "I will not let anyone take anything from me," William said in a voice that made the sky of the Deadlands crack in two. "Not even death." Just as the half-elf was about to lunge at the cloaked figure in front of him, a delicate hand covered his eyes from behind, stopping him in his tracks. "I don't like cheating," a sweet and silky voice stated. "I had a deal with someone, and I don't want her nagging at me and telling me that I cheated. While it is regretful, I can't turn a blind eye to this and see what is about to happen under my watch." A second later, William fell on the ground unconscious. The cloaked figure stared at the otherworldly beauty in front of him for a brief moment before bowing his head in respect. "Mother, I had no intention of getting in your way," the cloaked figure said. "I already said that I wouldn't kill him, but he still attacked me." The otherworldly beauty sighed as she caressed the face that was hiding underneath the cloak. "I know," the primordial goddess replied, "but like I said earlier, I made a deal with someone. So give me that young lady's soul. It's not her time to enter the cycle of reincarnation yet." "But the rules. Are you going to defy me?" "No, of course not, mother," the cloaked figure hurriedly replied as he raised his hand. Soon a dazzling red orb of light appeared on the palm of the cloaked figure's hand. "Thank you," the primordial goddess said sweetly. "You are indeed my beloved son." The otherworldly beauty held Razel's soul in her right hand and waved her left hand to make the young beauty's body that had been split apart merge together. "You are lucky," the primordial goddess said as she returned Razel's soul to her body. "Although I don't know what the future holds, the fact that you are his future daughter allowed you to cheat death once, but this will be the first and last time it will be happening. Treasure your life, for no one knows when it is going to end." A few seconds later, a gasp escaped Razel's lips as she once again took a breath of air. She was still unconscious and didn't know that she had been given a second chance of life from an unexpected source. After making sure that there was no lasting damage to her body, the primordial goddess placed the young beauty right beside the unconscious William, who had tears streaming down his face. Clearly, Razel dying in front of him triggered the darkness that had accompanied him since he had chosen to become a dark mage. The primordial goddess sighed as he patted the cloaked figure's shoulder. The Black Tower will no longer be safe here in the Deadlands. Morax had already memorized this domain's coordinates and could visit anytime he wanted. It will be best if you take it back with you and create a new domain that will serve as the new Deadlands. The cloaked figure nodded. He then raised his hand and ejected the two ladies who had fallen unconscious inside it. The primordial goddess had put the two of them asleep before she made a move to keep William from attacking her son. I'm a bit envious, the primordial goddess smiled as she dumped Lilith's and Kathy's body on top of William. Let's go, this place no longer serves any purpose. But before that, won't you be a dear and open the stairway for the mortals to leave this place? Since I came all this way to interfere, I should do it until the end. Of course, Mother, the cloaked figure said as he pointed at the moon that was shining brightly in the sky of the Deadlands. The moon then transformed into a giant golden portal that connected to the entirety of the multiverse. Anyone who stepped on it would be teleported back to their homeworlds. After the portal appeared, several stairs made of light extended from the portal towards the ground. Very good, the primordial goddess nodded her head in satisfaction. Let's go, our duty here is done. The otherworldly beauty turned into particles of black light and flew towards the heavens. The cloaked figure gave William a sidelong glance before he, too, turned into particles of black light. He didn't know what his mother meant when she said that she had a deal with someone, but one thing was for sure. The half-elf who currently had a face scrunched in discomfort after having two ladies dumped on his chest was someone that his mother thought of highly. Since that was the case, he was willing to bend the rules once for her sake, but he would only do it once. The next time that he crossed paths with the red-headed teenager, he would do his duty without fail. During that time, even if his mother stood in front of him, he would no longer budge in his decision. After all, he was the one who lorded over death. Not even his mother would be able to save the half-elf from his grasp when the time for him to return to the embrace of the cycle of reincarnation finally came. Chapter 867, I'm Not Dreaming, Right? In a dark world where no light could be seen, William flew into the endless abyss. He was chasing after a young beauty whose red hair fluttered behind her. The half-elf was desperately flying towards her, but the large gap between them remained. Even so, he didn't stop. William felt that if he really gave up on chasing after her, he would never see the young beauty ever again. Razel, don't go, William shouted. Come back to me. The girl didn't reply and continued to move farther and farther away from him. In one last-ditch effort, William used all of his strength and willpower to increase his speed exponentially. It was at that moment when the distance between them shortened until he was merely 3 meters away from the girl he was chasing. I'm not letting you go anywhere, William cried out as he reached out his hand to grab the object of his affection. I won't let you go. When William opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was a pair of amber-colored eyes looking back at him in a tender gaze. The half-elf didn't even pause to think as he hurriedly hugged the figure in front of him. He held her so tight that the young beauty felt like her bones were going to break. Even so, she endured, for she knew that the person who had locked her in a protective embrace was someone that would go to hell and back for her sake. Razel wrapped her arms around William's head and patted it gently. She could feel something wet streaming down her back as the half-elf held her tight. This isn't a dream, right? William asked with a trace of anxiousness. I'm not dreaming, right? You're not dreaming, Razel answered. I am here with you right now, and I'm very much alive, but I might just kick the bucket if you hug me any tighter, Pa. William immediately loosened his hold on the young beauty and used a diagnostic spell to check her current condition. After seeing that there was nothing wrong with her, he was finally able to sigh in relief as he held her hand. What happened? William inquired. I was so sure you died. That was the last thing that I remembered before I attacked the cloaked figure. I don't know what happened after that. Razel shook her head. I don't know what happened as well. The last thing I remembered was pushing you away. After that, I felt a brief moment of pain before everything turned dark. William held the young beauty's hand and gave it a light squeeze. Although he didn't know how she was revived, he was more than happy to hold and talk to Razel again. As if waiting for that cue, the door of the room opened, and the Amazon princess arrived carrying a tray of food. "It's good to see that you're finally awake," Lilith said as she placed the food cart beside the bed. "You've been asleep for 2 days." 2 days? William gasped in shock because he didn't expect that he had been sleeping for such a long time. Wait, what happened to the cloaked figure? Lilith shook her head as she sat down on the bed and pulled Razel to her embrace. "When I woke up, only you, Razel, and Kathy were around. Even the Black Tower had disappeared." William took a deep breath as he massaged his face with his hands. There were things that he wanted to ask, but he needed to calm himself first so that he could think properly. After regaining his composure, he asked Lilith to explain everything that happened while he was unconscious. "After that cloaked figure sliced Razel in half, you confronted it," Lilith explained. "That was the last thing I remember before I lost consciousness. I asked Kathy, but she said that she also lost consciousness just like me. When I came to, I and Cassie were lying on top of your body. There were no signs of the cloaked figure as well as the Black Tower. However, something unbelievable happened. A golden portal had appeared in the sky. Cassie believed that it could help us all leave this place. The members of the Glory Shelter had already climbed the stairs that led towards the sky and entered the golden portal. Although none of them returned, Razel said that there was no cause for concern." William looked at the young beauty that was currently in Lilith's embrace. Clearly, Razel was loving the care and attention that she was receiving from the Amazon princess. "Don't worry, the golden portal will indeed take us all back to our homeworlds and timelines," Razel said with confidence. "It will last for 3 more weeks, so Pa, you still have plenty of time." "Plenty of time for what?" William asked. "Plenty of time to merge with the laws of the Deadlands," Razel answered. "Right now, the Deadlands will no longer host the wandering souls that tried to defy life and death. Without the Black Tower, this place is just another abandoned plane of existence with no future. It will be best if you properly learn the laws of this place before you integrate it with your 1,000-beast domain." William nodded in understanding. During his battle against Morax, he was only able to learn 2 of the laws that govern the Deadlands. Although he wouldn't be able to use them to their full potential when he returned to Hestia, the abilities would still prove useful when facing difficult situations. "Where is Kathy?" William asked. As soon as he asked this question, Lilith and Razel quieted down, and both of them had complicated expressions on their faces. "Kathy is currently resting," Lilith said after a minute had passed. "She said that she would need all the strength she could muster when you woke up." "Huh, what do you mean?" "Well, she said that you will become extremely hungry when you wake up, and that if we're not careful, you might suck both Razel and I dry." William was about to tell the Amazon princess that she shouldn't believe everything Razel was saying. However, before he could even do so, he immediately covered his lips with his hand. A strong sense of bloodthirst threatened to take hold of his consciousness. After feeling relief that Razel hadn't died, the stone that had been weighing down his heart disappeared completely. This led to his other senses returning to their normal functions, which made the half-elf feel an extreme craving for blood. He was currently a vampire progenitor, and his need for blood was stronger than ordinary vampires. Even after switching his job class to a different one, the bloodthirst still remained, and it made William feel very uncomfortable. "Where is she?" William inquired as he averted his gaze to the 2 beautiful ladies in front of him. His bloodthirst was so strong that just looking at Lilith and Razel was enough to give him the urge to bite them. "She's currently in her room," Lilith replied. "Do you know where it is?" William nodded and hurriedly left the room. He was afraid that if he stayed a second longer, he would really sink his fangs on the 2 beauties' tender necks and suck all of their blood. This where the chapter ends, and here's my analysis. Within the obsidian walls of the Black Tower, a twisted victory had been claimed. Avril, the elf consumed by obsession, gazed upon the red-haired beauty before her, a soul she believed was finally, utterly hers. She caressed her prize, whispering promises of a love forged by enslavement. Her prize, she believed, was a hollow shell bound to obey her every command. But Avril's victory was an illusion. The body she held was not Raisel's, it was William's. The half-elf, having endured the horrors of enslavement himself, possessed an immunity that no crystal blade could overcome. As Avril's guard lowered, so did her life, drained by the very fangs she thought were a lover's kiss. The enslaver became the enslaved, a dried husk left on the cold floor. With a single punch, William shattered the enslaving blade and reclaimed control, all while the real Raisel, inhabiting his body, raced to reunite with her mother, Lilith. But their intricate plan had one terrifying flaw: Morax, the Dread Lord. High above the battle, Morax watched his century-long scheme unravel. The laws of the Deadlands, meant to make him a god, were being siphoned away. His fury knew no bounds. With a roar that shook the very foundations of the realm, he descended upon the Black Tower, intent on crushing the meddler who dared to steal his power. Inside the throne room, Raisel, now back in her own body, fought for control of the tower's core. But she was too slow. Morax's shadow loomed over her, and in a flash of black, two spears of pure darkness pierced through the defenses, pinning her to the dragonbone throne. Pain, blood, the world began to fade. But as Morax lunged for the final blow, a single foot appeared in his vision. A brutal kick sent the Dreadlord crashing into the wall. William, his eyes burning with a fury that eclipsed even the Dreadlord's, stood over his wounded daughter. The power of the Deadlands, meant for a god, was now merging with his very soul. With his family safe behind him, William turned to face his greatest enemy. But Morax, seeing his defeat, made a desperate, world-shattering call. A massive tear ripped open the sky. From within, two burning eyes, ancient and malevolent, gazed upon the world. The god of destruction, the being who burned Asgard to ash, had answered. A hand large enough to crush mountains reached for the Black Tower, for William's family. In a desperate gambit, William called upon a memory, a friend from a forgotten age. He raised his hand and whispered a forgotten hymn. Bring in the hammer to sanctify the bride. From the heavens, I can hear Mjolnir's roar. The small wooden mallet, a forgotten relic, exploded through a window and landed in his hand. In a flash of golden lightning, it transformed. Clad in the armor of a fallen god, William hurled himself at the god of destruction. The battle was cataclysmic. Hammer met divine axe, shaking the very fabric of the Deadlands. With the power of a new world at his command, William managed to cut off Surtur's hand and drive him back. But the victory was hollow. The god of destruction retreated, leaving only the sound of his mocking laughter. Morax, too, escaped through a spatial tear, promising eternal torment. For a moment there was silence. The storm had passed. But then a new figure emerged from the shadows. Cloaked in darkness, wielding a scythe, the air itself grew cold. The god of death had come to claim his due. He raised his scythe, not for Morax, but for William. In that final, frozen moment, a flash of red hair blurred in front of the half-elf. Raisel pushed her father aside, her eyes meeting his one last time. I love you, Papa. The scythe fell. Her body fell, cut in two before his very eyes. In that moment, William's scream was not of a man, but of a soul shattering. The laws of the world cracked. A primordial darkness, long dormant, awakened within him. He would let no one take anything from him, not even death itself. But just as he lunged for the god of death, a delicate hand covered his eyes, and everything went black. When William awoke, he was holding Raisel, alive and breathing. Lilith was there. The god of death and the Black Tower were gone. In their place, a golden stairway to the stars had appeared, promising a way home. A second chance at life, given by forces beyond their understanding. But the question remains, a shadow lurking beneath their newfound hope. As William looks into the eyes of his resurrected daughter, he knows one terrifying truth: Death itself has bent its rules for him, but only once. So the question isn't if the god of death will return, but when will he come to collect? What ancient deal spared Razel's life? And what will William sacrifice to cheat the fate that is coming for him? The answers lie within the full chapters of Reincarnated with the Strongest System. Dive into the action, the romance, and the cosmic scale battles now. For more intense moments and high-stakes adventures, subscribe to Extreme Highlights audio novels. Don't miss a single second of the action. Hit that subscribe button and join the legend.